Hello, everybody. It's the Horror Guys with episode number 49.
49.
49.
That's almost 50.
Almost.
Almost half 100.
Oh, just one shy of 50.
Coming up on a year anniversary there.
I bet we'll at least do one more, and then it will be 50. But anyway, we saw some movies, and we're going to tell you all about them.
Yeah. We started out with Karloff and Lugosi's return in The Invisible Ray.
Together again.
See Peter Cushing's very first Hammer film, The Abominable Snowman, the over-the-top Bunny Game from 2010, and the international The Killer Toon from 2013.
South Korean.
And a short.
Mm-hmm.
Never get any good North Korean horror movies.
Not that we've ever
they call
seen.
that the news.
Not that we've ever seen.
Yeah, not that we've ever seen.
So what's first?
Well, first, we should probably mention how to contact us.
How do you do that?
horrorguysmail@gmail.com or call us at 937-453-1575. Or stop in at horrorguys.com.
That's insane to give a phone number. Just anybody could call.
You know what would be even crazier?
If somebody did call.
Yeah. Not getting a lot of action on the phone number. But that's okay. Send us an email or contact us any way you like. Let us know what you think.
Yeah.
Suggestions are great. Comments are great. If you had somebody comment on one of our YouTube videos the other day about what is horror. And we asked a couple weeks ago, what is horror? Because
that is a good
we've got some of these
question
things that are
sometimes.
sort of historical, and some of these things that are sort of murder mysteries, and some of these things with monsters and killers. And
What defines
is
horror?
horror?
Yeah.
And this guy said that horror was basically, it overlapped with many other genres.
Yeah.
Which is true. You got your horror comedy like last week's shows.
Mm-hmm.
The
Thanksgiving
and stuff.
Yeah.
You got the horror drama. You've got horror romance.
Horror science fiction, like
Alien,
Alien, for
of
instance.
that, yeah.
Uh-huh.
It just overlaps with everything.
Yeah.
Horror does have
Horror
a scary
is
element.
ubiquitous. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So what else did we see?
Well, we saw The Invisible Ray from way back in 1936.
Karloff and Lugosi together again.
Directed by Lambert Hillier, written by John Colton and Howard Higgins, stars Boris Karloff, Bela Lugosi, and Francis Drake. 1 hour, 20 minutes. Link on the show notes. Did you like it?
I did. I liked it a lot. Well, okay. I liked it, sort of. I give it a qualified like. The story itself is a little mundane and predictable. I wasn't thrilled with the story.
1936.
Yeah, it's kind of predictable. But Bela Lugosi, I thought he knocked it out of the ballpark in this one.
He usually does.
Oh, I thought he was exceptionally good in this one.
I think at the Rue Morgue was the only thing I've seen him in that he wasn't good.
Yeah,
and even then, the movie wasn't really his fault.
Yeah, it was more the movie, not him.
Yeah, he was good in.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, and Karloff. Yeah, and both their performances were really top notch.
Karloff was the bigger.
It's kind of
had more to do here.
It's kind of a meh movie, and I see why it's not one of the big hits.
Yeah,
because of that, which is a shame because of the work they did in it.
Yeah. Well, Dr. Rook is expecting visitors from England, so he's checking out the equipment in the laboratory. His mother comes in and says she fears her son won't learn until it's too late that, get this, there are some things that man was not meant to know.
No.
There's always one.
There is.
Janos Rook is looking through a huge telescope-like thing when we see that he looks like Boris Karloff, only with dark curly hair. Sir Francis and his son Drake, as well as Dr. Benet from Paris, who looks a lot like Bela Lugosi, are coming to inspect Rook's work.
And in an interesting bit of trivia in this one, Bela Lugosi, or not, Karloff's mother, who's kind of the harbinger in this, doomsayer, she was only a few years older than he was.
He was playing younger in this one.
They younged him up for it, with makeup and hair, and
and quite a few of them
aged her some.
Yeah,
so
quite a few of them. Like
it looks okay.
He was playing an old man.
Yeah,
this time he actually played somebody younger than he really was.
And it looks they pull it off, but in real life, I thought it was convincing. Yeah, but in real life,
he was old. So was she. He takes them all to the lab where they look through the telescope at the Andromeda Nebula. A ray from there will be recorded in his machines.
Invisible ray.
He turns on the sparking, grinding Frankenstein-y machine, and a projection of the universe appears in the room. We see several well-known astronomical places and objects as we proceed to Andromeda. Rook believes that millions of years ago, a huge chunk of a material something like radium crashed from the sky and landed in the heart of Africa.
Like radium, only better.
Radium
Stronger.
X.
More powerful.
We see the Earth in the past as the asteroid approaches and hits the Earth. Light takes time to pass between here and Andromeda, and by looking at the light from the Andromeda end, they can see something that happened in the past.
Which the science is sort of sound there, but you have to be in Andromeda looking at Earth for that to work. Not on
There's
Earth.
no way to see from Andromeda from here in real life.
Because the speed of light and all, and science.
And of course, even if you were standing in Andromeda at the right time in the right place, you could not see something as small as the Earth.
Very, very powerful telescope.
Yeah, not that powerful.
Alien technology, you never know what they're capable of.
Well, Benet wants Rook to join them on their forthcoming expedition to Africa to find the remnants of that asteroid. His mother warns him not to go. You get along well with your experiments, but you don't do so well with people. Once we get to Africa, there are racist stereotypes galore.
It was a different time. Yeah.
It sure was.
Well, that might be another contributing factor to why it's not a really hot movie too, because of those racial stereotypes and.
Oh, there's all kinds of movies from that time period though that had Africans.
This one seemed more than usual. White people in Africa and all the poor Africans, and
I don't know how stereotypical that really was in the 30s. Africa had been primarily colonized by England, France, and white countries.
Well, but it's
maybe it was like that.
It's politically incorrect. Oh, I think it really was. Yeah. But it's pretty politically incorrect now.
Yeah, definitely.
Calling all the black men boys and
get your boy.
Talking about killing all the rhinos because they're not worth anything.
My next line.
Yeah.
Racist stereotypes galore as Drake and his mother brag about how many rhinos they've killed on the trip.
Yeah, like they're nothing. Yeah.
Yeah, I got 6. How many did you get? Oh, I got 8.
Yeah. It was a different time.
Yeah. And they wonder what happened to Rook since he seems to abandon all of them, including his wife. Young Mr. Drake is falling for Diana, Mrs. Rook. Rook and his native guides find the radioactive meteor, and it's still smoking after millions of years.
More power than man has ever known.
Diana goes off to find Rook. Rook, meanwhile, has gathered samples, and he gloats, "More power than man has ever known." He plugs his sample into a big telescope-looking gun that melts a giant rock formation. Yeah, which was a pretty good special effect, actually, I thought.
Yeah, because his guides and assistants and the natives, they're starting to get skittish, and they're about to turn on him and flee, and he says, "No, look what I can do. Yeah, and I'll do if I can do that to a rock, just think what I can do to you." And so he convinces them to stay.
That night, Rook starts to glow radioactively. The samples have poisoned him.
Small side effect. Yeah.
He pets his dog, who dies immediately. He has the touch of death. Rook goes home to see Benet, and he hopes that Dr. Benet can help find a cure for him. Benet gives him the cure for radium sickness, and that seems to work, but only for a short time.
And he's got to keep redoing it.
Yeah. He'll need to take the antidote every single day, or he'll become a killing machine and eventually crumble to ash. Rook gets the treatment and goes back to his own camp to complete his work and swears Benet to secrecy. Weeks pass. Drake and Diana grow closer, even though they know they shouldn't.
Forbidden love.
Rook says he could use his discovery to power a city 1,000 miles away, or he could use it to destroy that city. Benet's companions, including Diana, have now gone back to Europe. Everyone, including Rook, now returns home. Rook uses his ray to restore his blind mother's vision. He decides to finally present his findings in Paris.
And he gets rich and famous off it, and doesn't really give Karloff the credit he deserves, which Karloff doesn't like too much.
Well, that was Karloff that just did those things. He's going to go present in Paris.
No, Lugosi.
Benet has already gotten famous off this invention.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah, with the using it for medical purposes. Yeah.
Rook's mother again warns him not to go, as he'll find nothing but tragedy there. She's a fun old
Doomed!
woman.
You're all doomed!
She's fun.
Yeah, the Harbinger. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Harbinger? I've always heard it Harbinger.
Harbinger, yeah,
Harbinger.
Anyway,
the Harbinger of Doom.
She's the Harbinger, yeah. You're all doomed.
Rook goes to Paris to find Benet has already cured thousands using the radium X-beam, and is credited in all the newspapers. Rook is not pleased, but Rook has won the Nobel Prize, a fact that's thrown out in a single line.
Mm-hmm. And the Nobel Prize is a huge
it's
cash
a big
prize,
deal.
And it's a big deal. And
Benet took the idea and did this medical stuff with it, but Rook still got a Nobel Prize. It's not like he's been, he's forgotten.
Not happy with that, though. Yeah.
Rook finds a man about his size and kills him, leaving his papers on the body to make it look like he died. Diana and Drake get married now that she's free of him. Rook is losing his mind, and he vows to kill the 6 people who stole his discovery.
And an interesting side note, the chapel they get married in is the chapel from the Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Yeah.
They recycled the set.
And it's got these 6 statues out in front, and he melts them all with his beam.
One at a time, though, representing the 6 people who he feels wronged him.
1 down,
yeah.
1 to 2 down, and so forth.
Yeah.
Sir Francis is then killed, and Benet uses an ultraviolet camera to see what Sir Francis saw in his final moments.
Yeah, that's a bit of a stretch. Yeah, his eye recorded.
They could see an image of Rook in his eyeball.
Yeah,
it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
Not only that, but the 6 statues across the road start being melted. Sir Francis's wife dies next with glowing handprints on her throat. Ooh, who would leave a glowing handprint?
Whoever could that be?
Benet then tells the police everything.
Yeah, he knows who it is.
Yeah. Drake and Benet offer to use themselves as bait to draw out Rook. Rook, of course, crashes the party. Benet is killed quickly, and finally only Drake and Diana are left. Rook confronts Diana, but he can't do it. Rook decides that only Drake needs to be killed, but for some reason, Rook's mother intervenes, destroying his treatment. He then starts smoking and burns up. The end.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's the Song of the South of horror movies.
Okay, it's not that bad.
Okay, not quite as bad.
It's not that bad.
Song of the South, but yeah, it's a factor.
Here we have some atomic age sci-fi before there was an atomic age, 1936.
Mm-hmm.
All the effects of the material are compared to radium, something people at the time had heard of.
Mm-hmm.
Plutonium, uranium, not so much a big thing in 1936.
Radium, though.
Everybody knew radium because of Mary Curie hitting the papers not too long before this.
And radium watch dials and radium alarm clock faces.
They had those then?
I think so.
Okay.
Yes. Glow in the dark.
Some of the special effects, like the melting rock, look pretty good.
Yeah, that did.
I kind of understand what they were doing in the beginning with the Andromeda Galaxy, but the rest of the scientific details here were just pure fantasy. Karloff is playing a younger man this time around, and it's different seeing him not playing an old guy. He climbs rocks and runs around and generally is more active than in most of his other films.
He is much more spry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lugosi and Karloff teamed up many times, but I think this may be the best of the ones we've seen so far.
Mm-hmm.
And the previous 2 are the Black Cat and the Raven that we've seen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah.
Oh, it definitely had its problematic points, but overall I was definitely entertained.
I recommend it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Is it hammer time?
It's hammer time. The Abominable Snowman of the Himalayas, 1957. And I've been writing everything Abominable Snowman, but the full title is The Abominable Snowman of the Himalayas. Yeah.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Directed by Val Guest, written by Nigel Neal, same guy who did the Quatermass stuff.
Filmed in glorious black and white.
A lot of white in this one with the snow.
Yeah.
Stars Forrest Tucker, Peter Cushing, and Maureen Connell. 1 hour, 25 minutes. Link in the show notes. Did you like it?
Yes, I did.
I did too,
Mm-hmm.
and I couldn't tell you why exactly. It really has some problems. Not that much happens, but I was entertained throughout.
Yeah, so was I. Peter Cushing is mighty fine on it. They all were.
Peter Cushing's first Hammer film.
Mm-hmm.
They hired him for this one.
His first of 22 Hammer films.
He got second billing to Forrest Tucker, the guy from F Troop.
They kept inviting him back. He liked doing them.
Yeah. Yeah, Forrest Tucker from F Troop came later. I don't know. I guess he'd just done a bunch of Westerns and stuff before this.
Mm-hmm.
But he was a relatively big star. Cushing, not so much.
Yeah.
Well, we begin with a monastery in the Himalayas. A pair of British botanists are here to study rare plants. Dr. John Rollison, Dr. Peter Fox, and John's wife Helen have been here for a while, but the llama says others will be coming in a few hours.
Because he knows.
Yeah, he sees things.
Yes.
The llama doesn't like the people who are coming, but Rollison seems to trust them. The group that is coming is planning to hike to the peak of the mountain, and John plans to go with them. Helen, his wife, is very much against the idea, as he was seriously injured on his last climb. She accuses him. "This trip isn't just about finding rare plants, is it? It's your theories about the high valleys, and what might be there. The creature!" Okay, so she sounds a lot like, I don't know.
The Grand Negus.
Yeah. The three Americans show up. Their leader is named Tom Friend. He mentions the word Yeti, and all the locals get real quiet.
They don't like that.
One of the men has followed the thing's footprints before, and Friend has one of its teeth. They all believe the creature is real. The guide they're taking along claims to have seen the Yeti himself. The llama says the tooth is not real, as it was carved out of bone. He denies the Yeti is real at all.
He would, though.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The llama warns John to face the creature with humility and honor. John doesn't understand what that's about, but he decides to go with Friend and his men anyway.
Yeah, this is after he denied the Yeti was real and everything, and then as a last
It's
message,
not real, but if you happen to see one.
As a last message to John, alone, the two of them talking, before. And John is clearly a genuinely good guy right from the beginning. It becomes more and more clear that, he's
no Captain Clegg.
He's through and through a good guy. Yeah.
Finally, the five men get underway. They notice that they're being followed, and before long, they're being shot at. They make camp, and John explains that the Yeti is possibly a parallel branch of creature related to humanity. They plan to trap the creature, and they have a trap that looks like it was made of Tinker Toys.
Yeah, that's the flimsiest looking. Supposedly this giant creature that's bigger than people.
And later on we see a big trap that actually looks like it might work, but the thing they show us at that point, no.
Yeah, not that one.
The party splits up, and John's companion gets his foot stuck in a trap. Not a Tinker Toy trap.
Yeah, the real kind.
When the group gets back together, they find that they've actually caught one of the things. John explains, no, that's just a Himalayan monkey. But Friend says it's good enough. They'll call it a Yeti and collect a reward. John then calls Friend a cheap fairground trickster.
Which is pretty much what he is.
Yeah. The injured man can't walk, and a blizzard is on the way. Something breaks the cage open and releases the monkey. The real Yeti came and released the little monkey.
Mm-hmm.
We see a huge hand reach into the tent. One of them shoots it, but it leaves a trail of blood behind it, which they follow. They find the body. It's 11 feet tall, and they hear more of them howling in the mountains.
They ain't happy.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
The guide runs away and heads back to the monastery. John's wife, Helen, sees him and asks the llama about him, but the llama says the guide did not come back. Yeah, he did. We saw him.
Yeah, and she saw him. Yeah.
Helen and Fox decide to set up an expedition to rescue the others. The injured man wanders off alone, following the howls, and he didn't take his coat or gloves, so he falls to his death before he has a chance to freeze. They set up a trap to catch the monster when it returns for them.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't work, and they lose another man, and now it's just John and Friend.
Mm-hmm.
Keep calling him and Friend, like
and Friend.
That's his name.
Yeah.
John suggests that the creature can read minds. McNee died from his own terror, and so did the man with the trap.
Yeah, he's not. They don't just read minds; they project their thoughts into people.
He suggests that the danger isn't outside; it's what's inside them that's really dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
He remembers the llama's warning: the Yetis may just be biding their time, waiting for humanity to die off, and they can take over.
Mm-hmm.
Humanity branched off. Yetis branched off. They're just waiting for the other side to die out.
Yep.
In the Himalayas, but all 6 of them.
Yeah. Oh, there's probably more than 6.
Okay, not a great plan. John hears a radio...
They like it there. They like the cold. They like the thin air.
All right.
Yeah.
John hears a radio signal that warns them to abandon everything and leave. But Friend points out, hey, the radio's been smashed for 3 days.
But
Then Friend.
I heard it.
Then Friend hears one of the men outside for yelling for help, but of course the two of them are the only ones left.
They're dead, so yeah. Mm-hmm.
They kind of hearing what they want to be hearing.
Yeah, or what the Yeti wants them to be hearing. Yeah.
Friend rushes outside, not listening to John's warnings, and of course he's buried in an avalanche. John returns to his cave and encounters two Yetis inside. Helen and Foxy wake up in the night and follow the Yeti calls. They find John, unconscious in the snow with Yeti prints nearby. They carried him and dropped him off at Helen's camp. Later, John tells the llama that what he was looking for does not exist. There is no Yeti.
That's right. No Yeti.
No, didn't see a thing.
Nope.
Nope, nothing here.
Nope.
Now I assumed...
We had a different interpretation.
We did,
of the ending.
We talked about this one.
Yeah.
I assume that Cushing, he went back and he's a good guy. People died in this. He doesn't want anybody else to die in that. And he doesn't want to hurt the Yetis because the way he's thinking the parallel of evolution, they might even be a superior race or something like that. So he's lying to everybody that, no, we went up there, we didn't find nothing. There's nothing there. So people would leave him alone.
And
but you had a different interpretation.
My take on it was that the Yetis were very powerfully telepathic. And
it was mentioned that they could be.
Yeah. And they saw what a genuinely good guy he was and decided he didn't need to die, and they wiped his memory instead.
So he really believed.
So he really didn't. And then they knocked him out, and when he came to, he really had no memory of them. I think that's that they realized that he's a good guy. We don't have to kill this one.
And I think it's totally vague enough. You could go either way legitimately.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Well, this was Peter Cushing's first of 22 Hammer films. I don't know where this was actually filmed, but there's a lot of snowy mountain scenes, and it must have been a lot of work to film this.
Well, and it's some of it seemed like real, but then there were a lot of scenes where there was freezing and cold and snow, and you couldn't see their breath. And it was clearly a studio.
Yeah,
Yeah, so it was a mix.
A mix of real and not.
And studio.
Yeah. Also, for a group that's hoping to sneak in and capture a creature, they sure are a loudmouth bunch.
Yeah, they were noisy. Yeah. Quiet.
Always yelling at each other.
Yeah, they're the only ones around for miles. The
Yetis never directly killed anyone. As John realized, they did it all to themselves.
Mm-hmm.
There is no Yeti. Or is that just what they want you to think?
Or it's there, yeah. All in all, good movie.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I liked it too.
Yeah.
And short films? We saw a short film, didn't we?
We did. We saw one called Carnivore.
Neat.
And that's what it's all about.
Came out in 2019.
Yeah.
Directed by Constance Sang. Written by Constance Sang. Stars Annapurna Sriram, Amanda Quaid, Leslie Hendricks, Lee Wilkoff, and Damian Young. Runtime, 13 minutes.
And worth every one of them.
YouTube link in the show notes. You can go watch it. It's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
You liked it?
I did. I liked it a lot. Yeah.
Ahana, a commodities trader, has been invited to come and stay at a big house, and the woman in charge confiscates her phone. We're private people, she says.
Oh, it's a business getaway, but what's an offsite? Is that a British expression?
No, I think it's just a thing like, taking the company out for bowling or something.
Yeah.
This would be a common thing. We're going to get away for the weekend.
Oh, yeah, I know, but I've never heard it called an offsite before.
Oh, it might be a British thing.
Yeah. Anyway, it's a business retreat. Yeah.
They take her phone, and she goes inside, and all the furniture is covered in sheets as if it were deserted most of the time, which I did not get that. Why was all the furniture covered up?
Atmospheric. I don't know.
I mean, it's not a haunted house or anything, although I thought it was going to be at first.
I think the house was so huge that there's just rooms they didn't use, and she was sitting in one of the rooms initially. Were one of the unused rooms.
Inside the next room.
Seldom used, because it's so huge.
Three people are joking, and Ahana enters. They suggest she go upstairs and freshen up.
Yeah, I mean, her room and those rooms and stuff where they were in weren't covered or anything.
Right.
I think that's all it was.
They seem very unfriendly to her for some reason. She goes upstairs and cries a little bit. She doesn't fit in. Mm-hmm. This should be a big opportunity for her, but she doesn't really seem to fit in with this group. She meets a colleague, and he expects that one of them is going to get a big promotion after the weekend. She turns down the pâté because she's a vegetarian. Mm-hmm. The hostess comes in and gives a short speech about injecting new blood into this very old firm.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, I'm figuring they're vampires or something.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking,
Yeah.
too, that they're both going to be on the menu or something, yeah. Did you notice she also turned down, he wanted to have the tequila shot with her, and she doesn't drink either.
Oh, your religion doesn't allow that, does it?
Yeah.
He asked,
yeah. So I think maybe, she's Muslim and vegetarian is the implication there. Yeah. It's never actually said, but yeah.
Well, they're all going to go out hunting now, and she's a little upset by that, too.
What, hunting?
She has no idea how to use a gun.
She learns quick, though.
Yeah. Well, they're not real complicated.
No.
You point and shoot.
Point and pull.
They all head out into the woods, and the hunt begins. Her colleague suggests that, not everyone is born for this job.
Yeah, he's
and
kind of a jerk.
Proves him wrong.
He's a sexist jerk.
Yeah, she proves him wrong.
Yeah.
This has several actors in it that I recognize from other things.
Oh, I didn't recognize anybody.
Oh, the one guy was from House of Cards.
Oh, yes, that one guy. Yeah.
The tall, gaunt guy.
The tall, gaunt guy. Yeah, he's
and
been in tons of stuff.
The main woman, I've seen her in other things, and I don't know either one of their names.
Oh, okay. No.
So it's definitely not a totally low-budget film. It did not go the way I expected, so that's always a good thing.
Yeah, and we're not going to spoil that.
And the moral of the story seems to be that it's good to learn new things.
And how far will you go to get ahead in business?
Yeah, thumbs up.
Yeah. Yeah, very good.
Okay, so Abominable Snowman, thumbs up.
Mm-hmm.
Short film Carnivore, thumbs up. The Invisible Ray, thumbs up.
We're on a streak.
The Bunny Game.
The
Bunny Game from 2011.
And then the streak is broken.
Directed by Adam Remeyer. Written by Rodleen Getzik and Adam Remeyer. Stars Rodleen Getzik. I didn't notice that. The girl is one of the writers of the show.
Mm-hmm.
Stars Rodleen Getzik, Jeff Renfro, and Dretty Page. Dretty Page?
No,
1 hour, 16 minutes.
Now, if you're feeling too much mirth and joy and you want to come down a little, this is a movie to watch.
We've been watching these really nasty movies the past few weeks. Grotesque, Serbian film. What was the one last week? We've already forgotten. That was Serbian film. What was before
Serbian
that?
film, and then Grotesque was before that.
There was something else. Well, this is in the same line of those. They're really bad films. And I said,
well, at least
at the time, the Serbian film, Serbian film was the worst thing I'd seen.
But it's entertaining. It's got a good story, and it's engaging.
Grotesque was torture porn. Serbian film was sex abuse kind of. You're right, though. They had stories.
Yeah.
Grotesque had a story behind it. Serbian film had a story behind it, but the out-of-work actor going back in, getting his big film break, and bad things happen.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a story to it. Well, this has...
less of a story.
Much less of a story.
Yeah.
And much more of the bad stuff.
Mm-hmm.
This is just somebody who wanted to do an hour and a half of torture porn because they liked it. Yeah. This is not a good movie.
Didn't like it. It made me not feel good.
So we're pretty well unanimous on this one.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you got the Serbian film where the guy has sex with a baby. Did you feel bad about that?
Yes, but it was entertaining.
I didn't really care that much.
That comes out wrong.
It was a movie.
It was.
You knew it was a movie. It was filmed as a horror movie. Mm-hmm. You can deal with horror movies.
Yes.
This looked very realistic.
This looked like a
felt
documentary.
much more. Yes, it felt much more real.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. Well, here we go.
Yes, that's the difference.
I think the black and white made a big difference in this. This one's in black and white.
Yeah, an artistic choice.
Which gives it a gritty look.
And we've had color for a while.
Security camera footage, webcam footage look. It looked like it was good. It looked real.
Documentary. Yeah.
Well, okay, this is black and white, so you know it's going to be seriously gritty.
Well, and it was said that the sex was real in it.
The trivia said that everything except the drugs in this movie was real.
Mm-hmm.
I'm real skeptical about that.
Mm-hmm. Sex looked pretty realistic.
Well, we start out with some scenes of rough sex and I can't even say it. Start off some scenes of rough sex and prostitution. Bunny is a prostitute, and she seems to get all the roughest clients. She takes their drugs and booze and abuse and money, But she cries afterwards, so we know she doesn't enjoy it.
Doesn't seem to, no.
I think we're supposed to sympathize with her a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
We also quickly get the impression that she's strung out on drugs most of the time, but I still think we're supposed to sympathize with her.
You didn't.
I didn't.
Sympathize
I
with
did.
her.
She's a strung out drug addict, prostitute who seems to enjoy what she's doing, ripping off her clients, and yeah, I don't see much there to sympathize with.
Mm.
One afternoon, she's hung over out in a parking lot, and a guy in a semi-truck stops and asks if she has any drugs he can buy. They both take some, and she offers him a $30 blowjob. He attacks her and puts her out with chloroform or something like that. This is 15 minutes in?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, about that.
The truck driver then kind of freaks out and pulls over to collect his wits. We get the impression here that this is his first kidnapping. He's obviously planned and prepared for this, but he's nervous on his first time.
See, that's not the... I had a different take on that.
Well, he kept getting out, pacing around, acting all nervous.
I think it was just he was totally into it and so psyched up, and you know how you get the adrenaline rush.
Not the, oh, what am I going to do? It's more like, oh boy.
Yeah, when you're so stoked up on something that just has you absolutely excited that you can't sit still, and I think that's what he was.
Well, this is the impression I got.
That was my take.
But it turns out you were right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he has done this before.
He was just all keyed up. Yeah.
Eventually, he takes her into the back of his trailer and plays with her unconscious body for about 15 long minutes.
Too long.
Yeah, I can't say I'm an expert, but I doubt chloroform would knock out anybody this hard to allow them to sleep through all the stuff he does in this scene.
For a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Picks her up and drops her head on the ground and things like that.
Well, and a lot more time passes than we see even, too.
Yeah, it takes 15 minutes of our time.
Yeah.
Eventually, Bunny wakes up and the screaming starts. Really shrill, obnoxious screaming. Probably recorded on the back of a semi-truck.
Maybe. Yeah.
She's chained to the wall inside the back of his truck. We get flashbacks to other girls he's done this to, and this is not his first time.
Yeah, some sort of a montage.
Yeah. There's a lot of disjointed flashbacks to him torturing girls we don't know. One of the first things he seems to do with a new victim is shave them bald, as he does with Bunny. He then also brands them and suffocates them. Eventually, he puts Bunny in a bunny costume, and then they play the bunny game. I guess her name is just coincidence, because he had the costume all picked out for her. The trucker wears a leather hog mask and chases her around the desert in her bunny suit. This goes on for most of the remainder of the film, alternating with flashes of torture that are so fast you can't totally make sense of what's really going on here. And that's it. That's the rest of the movie. I didn't leave you a cliffhanger there. That's pretty much all that happens.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't care too much for it.
Supposedly everything in this film was real except the drugs, and I'm a little skeptical of this claim, especially with the sloppy branding. He's got this, like, cattle brand that he heats up with a blowtorch, and one girl, he brands her butt, and I don't know, if you wanted that design, it didn't look bad. But then on Bunny's back, he does it 3 or 4 times, they overlap, and they're all messy looking. And I can't believe the actress would have allowed that, for real.
Doesn't seem like it.
The leg one, it didn't look bad. If you like the design, yeah, it could have been real. On the back, no, I don't think so. We've all seen movies that are cautionary tales about drugs and prostitution, and of course, Bunny is a prostitute, but the situation she finds herself in here really doesn't have too much to do with her being a prostitute. She just ran into the wrong guy who turns out to be a kidnapper. If she'd been a little girl walking home from church, the same thing would have ended up happening to her. The business of her being a prostitute and on drugs didn't have too much to do with it.
Yeah.
The plot is somewhat similar to Grotesque that we reviewed a couple weeks back, but that was much more entertaining since it was shot in the style of a horror movie, with humor and gore, and it was at least intended to be entertaining. This seemed like it was just one shocking assault after another, with lots of hitting, punching, and screaming mixed in. The black and white film just made it all seem that much more real, which took away any fun that might have been there and drained it away. My opinion is that this film is just nasty.
This film will steal your joy.
Watch it to cheer up after Serbian film?
No.
Or the other way around?
Yeah, watch Serbian film after.
Yeah, it's something.
Yeah.
And that's not a thumbs up, and that's not a thumbs down and a so bad you should see it anyway way. It's just bad.
I wouldn't recommend it.
No.
No. Sorry.
Okay, so I knew you were going to say that about Bunny Game, and I knew you were going to like Abominable Snowman, and I knew you were going to like...
He doesn't know what I'm going to say about the next
The
movie.
Killer Toon has me mystified what you're going to say.
Do I like it? Do I not like it?
This one is Killer Toon, a Korean film subtitled from 2013, directed by Yong-gun Kim, written by Sang-hak Lee, Hu Kyung Lee, stars Si-young Lee, Ki-jun and Hae-hyo Kwan. Hae-hyo Kwan.
You think you got all those names right?
I think I did pretty good there.
Okay.
Runtime, 1 hour, 44 minutes. There's a link in the show notes to pick it up from Amazon. And I'll tell you ahead of time that I did like it. Keep me in suspense.
Okay. All right. Because I go either way on movies.
Well,
especially when I have to read subtitles.
Being a subtitle movie, that's definitely points against it in your history. It's got a cartoon elements in it, which is a point against it in your history. And yet it looked very good, which is a couple points in favor of it. So I liked it. I thought it was good. We'll see what he says in a minute. Well, we're told over the credits that Kang Ji-yoon is the leading horror writer, having sold 7 million copies of her latest book. What's the name of the book? Did you make a note of that?
Million. Something about madness. Something about
insanity.
Insanity.
It don't matter.
Yeah.
She wrote a book and sold 7 million copies. Very popular.
Mm-hmm.
Her next webcomic is due out on August 27th, and we see Kang Yun finishing her latest manuscript, which she signs in blood. That's weird.
Yeah.
Her publisher, Mrs. Suh, watches several panels of the comic download, and they show her a story from her own past. Mrs. Suh's own mother was disfigured, and the other children thought she was a freakish monster. At one point as a child, Mrs. Suh drew a comic and wished her mother was dead, and almost immediately she found her mother hanging in the next room. This is exactly what happened in real life, and it's exactly what happened in this comic she's reading.
And she freaks out. One calls the artist, wanting to know how. Gets her voicemail, but
yeah.
How did you know my story? How did you know? We were the only two there.
Only Mrs. Suh and her mother were there when this happened, and she never told anyone. Suddenly, the office goes into some kind of weird lockdown mode, and Mrs. Suh is in there alone. Pictures of her in the office start appearing on the monitors. Pictures of her moving around right now in her regular clothes in that office doing things.
As a comic.
Yeah, as a comic.
Drawn as a comic, yeah.
We see her stabbed to death in a near photographic animated style. And she dies for real.
Mm-hmm.
So this cartoon that somebody drew and sent in online shows her being murdered. And of course the murder actually happens as she sees it.
And the comic is happening in real time.
Yeah. The investigator comes in the next morning and declares it a suicide. Locked room. He gives the case to his subordinate.
And it appears that she stabbed herself.
Yeah. They're all self-inflicted.
The wounds are all, so they find the weapon, they find, the way it was done. And
stabbed herself like 88 times.
Yeah, which is scissors. Weird to do it that many times, but it looks like a suicide. Mm-hmm. Yeah, all signs point to.
So he declares it a suicide and gives the case to his subordinate since he thinks the case will not turn up anything. He finds the drawings of the dead girl in the computer and starts getting a little more interested. Mm-hmm. The artist, Ji-yun, is driving alone at night and picks up a little girl who wants a ride. The girl says she is dead, and then she vanishes. We've all heard that story before.
Mm-hmm.
Some other freaky things happen on the road that night. She wakes up the next morning parked on the side of the road. She tells her therapist that this sort of dream has happened to her before, and the therapist explains Alice in Wonderland syndrome and suggests that Ji-yun is suffering from that. Artists who work too closely in their work start to not be able to tell the work from reality.
Mm-hmm.
And I have no idea if that's a real thing or not.
It is.
Probably is.
Yeah.
That afternoon, she starts dreaming of Mrs. Suh, who seems to now want to kill her. The police come and show her the drawing of the dead woman, and Ji-young admits she drew them. But they're just drawings, though. How could they be what actually happened? She died exactly the same way as the character in Ji-yun's art. Who else could have seen that artwork?
Who else?
Copycats. Ji-yun is now working on a story about a mortician and his son, and across town the story is playing out in real life.
With a real mortician and his son. And
the new story explains how the mortician killed his own wife twice. That's one you've got to see.
Yeah.
The police see the webcomic and start to track down all the morticians in town to see what was going on.
And it's being broadcast. It's like a live stream.
It's somehow live.
It's somehow being broadcast like a show.
They watch one panel at a time appear on their browser, and I don't know that there's anything like that real.
Well, maybe there is in South Korea. Maybe it's
streaming comic artist.
Streaming comic artist. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it could be.
Yeah.
Ji-Yun figures out that what she had been drawing was real, and she heads to the same address. The cops track down the guy the old-fashioned way. She looks at her address in the drawing.
Yeah, and we see the mortician, the stuff happening at the same time as the comic is. You know, we see it, and yeah.
Meanwhile, the mortician is having a really bad night.
Yes, he is. Yeah.
Well, Ji-Yun gets there a minute or two before the police, and they end up arresting her for his murder. Never show up first to a mysterious murder.
Mm-hmm.
She explains that the ghost in the comic was really the killer. It's the ghost.
Mm-hmm.
The police are skeptical, to say the least.
Yeah, sure, the ghost did it. Yeah.
She explains that she had imagined the story with the mortician, so how could it possibly be real, even though she was there and she saw it was real?
But she was there and the guy's dead, and that's suspicious.
He is seeing this mummified body killing him, but all she sees is he breaks his own neck.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it's sort of a suicide.
And yeah,
or it appears to be a suicide.
Well, and all the police can see is the guy has broken neck. Well, somebody he didn't do that himself.
I'm skeptical that you could do that yourself.
Yeah, they're less sure this time that it's a suicide, and she's right there. So yeah, suspicious. They're suspicious.
Well, she explains that her stories were not actually her own. She had writer's block back in the day, and someone emailed story ideas to her. She drew those stories, and they started coming true. The police checked the IP number of the person who emailed the originals to Ji-Yun and tracked down the address. They came from an abandoned haunted apartment complex, and it turns out that both Ji-Yun and the embalmer lived there at one time. Ji-Yun explains that she knew a girl, Seo-Hyun, who lived there and drew pictures that came true. And the people who lived there eventually turned on them, thinking they were witches. Mm-hmm. Soo-Hyun becomes the police's new prime suspect, except it's not that simple.
No, it's
never
more
that
complicated
simple.
than that. Yeah.
And more mayhem occurs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well,
the film is 95% real life with animated graphic imagery used to accentuate certain scenes.
And it's really great artwork.
If you think like in the original Creepshow movies, they would finish up a scene and suddenly it would become a comic book.
Yep.
Only this was much better art.
Yeah.
The artwork,
same kind of thing.
Yeah, the artwork used is really good, and the real world stuff is very colorful as well. It all looks really nice, almost like a real world comic itself.
Mm-hmm.
As the story unfolds, everything is eventually explained with more death, betrayal, murder, and lots of ghosts. Overall, I really liked it. It was a lot like watching a comic book turned into a movie. I had assumed that this began as a real comic, but no, it really is just a movie. It was made as a movie.
Yeah.
Still, it's very much got a comic book feel to it. So I liked it.
I liked it too. I liked it a lot. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The third act kind of drags, but it wraps up really good at the ending.
I think once they introduced Seo-Hyun as a character, it slowed down a bit.
A bit, yeah.
I was thinking for a while they could have just eliminated her character, but no, it becomes important.
She becomes really important. Yeah, and it's and are ghosts real or not? Yes. Are people doing these things or ghosts doing these things?
Yes.
It's complicated. Yeah. It's really neat how it crosses over.
Okay, so we think The Bunny Game is just the worst movie ever, and we liked everything else this week.
Not the worst movie ever. No. It's yeah. I still have my worst movie ever.
Which is?
I've forgotten the name of it.
The one from last week, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, Thanksgiving 3. See, it's so horrible. I put the title from my mind.
Yeah.
Thanksgiving 3. It's no Thanksgiving 3. It's better than
really.
That.
I'd rather watch Thanksgiving 3.
No, I'd rather watch the Bunny Game again. Yeah.
Well, that's our show.
Yes, it is.
Thanks for joining us. Stop in during the week at horrorguys.com for news and horror updates, comment on this podcast, or to contact us. All our reviews are there in writing. You can read them and search them. And just put in the search bar anything you want to know about. We've got over 250 reviews up there now.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
We're starting to get close to wrapping up our first year, and we got a lot of stuff. Get ready now for next week, because we've got, guess what?
Movies?
More great horrors.
More movies.
More movies.
Yeah.
We'll take a look at The Mad Doctor of Market Street from 1942.
That's just a fun title.
The Mad Doctor of Market Street. The Revenge of Frankenstein from Hammer 1958. Chaos A.D., another indie movie from 2019. And I Saw the Devil, foreign film from 2010. I'm Brad.
I'm Kevin.
We'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.